Fukuoka in Japan is only a 1-hour flight from Seoul, but I'd never been until now. I made a tradition of doing a winter trip to Japan every year, but this year I was busy packing up my life in Korea and I was going to skip it. But my nephew discovered Pokemon and his birthday was coming up, so I had to be the good auntie abroad and go to the closest Pokemon center. To be honest, I could have done without this trip because I was stressed about packing up my life to travel full time, but I was also kind of panicked thinking, once I'm not living in Korea anymore, I can't just buy cheap flights for a weekend in Japan. So I went anyway. Day 1 looked like this. I had sushi for lunch. I swapped snowy Seoul for rainy Fukuoka, but it was still really cold. I did some shopping for my upcoming travels, but I always get so lost in the underground shopping centers. I was staying near Ohori Park and spent the rainy day eating nearby, and I never go to Japan without getting pudding. Actually, when I first came to Japan on my first solo trip 10 years ago, I was so scared and intimidated to go into restaurants. I mainly just went to convenience stores. I've gotten over it since then, but sometimes I still get a little intimidated. I knew I had to try the Yatai food stalls. I scoped this one out for a while before I worked up the courage to go in. It was totally fine though. I tried a few dishes with mentaiko, the spicy cod roe Fukuoka is known for. I got stir-fried ramen with mentaiko on top and grilled eggplant with mentaiko and ponzu sauce. You'll see so many different dishes with it here. On day 2, I took a day trip to Takachiho Gorge, one of Japan's most scenic spots that I've always wanted to visit, but it ended up being more than that. To me, winter has always been grayscale, browns and whites and bare branches, but this trip showed me winter in completely different colors. The first stop was a mossy shrine in a forest. The path is lined with stone lanterns. There's an anime that was inspired by this forest, about a girl who meets a forest spirit here. At the top is a giant rock with a hole. They call it a power spot for overcoming obstacles. I love mountain forest atmospheres. Even this muted winter green is so soothing for the soul. The second stop had even more stones. It was a cave by a river where people stack stones as prayers. This whole area is full of ancient shrines and mythology. The walk there had colors I'd never seen together in winter, like pink camellia flowers, burnt orange leaves, mustard yellows, rosy brown branches. Everything was so obviously at rest, the way it was so pale and muted. I kept thinking that it felt special because most people don't venture out to see this in winter when we're also usually at rest. And then the beautiful gorge. I travel alone a lot, but there are some places I save for when I can travel with someone else. And this was one of those things I wanted to save because I really wanted to go on a boat. I couldn't paddle when alone, but there's a whole trail along the gorge and I really enjoyed it that way, walking leisurely. I'd still recommend doing this in a better season, but I wanted to share how unique it was in winter. Back in Fukuoka that night, I tried the Yatai street and found it too overwhelming, and it wasn't even that busy, but I just didn't want to wait for any spots. So I found a ramen shop instead for Hakata ramen that Fukuoka is famous for. Today I went to Yanagawa and Dazaifu. Yanagawa is less than an hour from Fukuoka and it's famous for its canal rides. In the winter, the boats have heated tables with blankets, which made it so cozy. Yanagawa is called the Venice of Japan, and there was a lot of ducking under the low historic bridges. I've seen videos of this place when the punters are jumping off and on at bridges, but it depends on the season, water levels, and which boatman you get. Ours sang songs. All the other commentary was in Japanese. This was an hour and I loved getting peeks into the homes on the waterways and their gardens. These canals used to be a castle moat system. I went to Dazaifu next, while hot vending machine coffees kept me warm. There's a shrine that's over 1,000 years old and around it are a bunch of shops and cafes. The shrine and the streets around it were really lively and there were a lot of students, which makes sense because Dazaifu is dedicated to the god of learning. I marveled at this tree and again at what winter can look like in other countries. and it's less than 30 minutes back to Fukuoka. I didn't even have a full meal all day. Then, being so full, I had to walk it off and wandered around a cyber shrine. There was just one other person around, so it was really cool to walk around. It's near Ohori Park. And by the way, Fukuoka is really easy to navigate because it was designed as a smart city. I stumbled upon how cute even a construction area can be. I left the next morning to go back to Korea. A sad goodbye because I don't know when I'll be back in Japan, but at least more travel awaits. Follow along to see.